Hey everybody, I'm Pete Buchbauer, and I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking, which is, I know Pete Buchbauer, he doesn't have that much hair. And you'd be right. It's actually been a problem that my father and I have had a lot since I started doing stand-up comedy. My dad will often have clients call him at the office and be like, I was trying to find you online, and I just kept finding this comedian. And I've had very similar situations where I've had bookers call me, be like, I was trying to book you for this show, and instead I got custody of my children back. So, two sides of the same coin. This is great to be here today helping raise some money for the AAML at this great fundraiser. In fact, when Larry first called me and said, Pete, we would love for you to do some comedy for the AAML, I got excited. I thought about all these stories my parents have told about these great restaurants and hotels and the wonderful people and experience that they've had with the AAML. And he goes, it's all going to be digital. And I said, that sounds about right for 2020. I don't know. I was one of those guys. I thought 2020 was going to be my year. I figured 2020 is going to be the year that I was finally going to make my television debut. And unless you guys are currently streaming this on your television, I have not met that goal. If you guys are streaming this on your television, go ahead and take a picture and tag me on it on the internet, because I would definitely use that as a credit. I joke about how 2020 has really put the shot into my career and all, but in reality, I have been doing really well. Right before the pandemic, I had just done a show in Las Vegas, and I had a friend of mine from back home reach out and say, hey, Pete, I see on Facebook you're going to be really successful in comedy. That's great. I was like, that's right. That's why I love Facebook. It's totally deceiving. I'm not at the Comedy Store right now, guys. I'm not. I'm in my bathroom, not wearing pants. You wouldn't even have known if I hadn't just told you. That's the beauty of the internet. No one knows. But he was like, no, Pete, despite all of that stuff, my younger brother is a huge fan of comedy, and you're his hero. And I was like, oh man, your brother needs better heroes. Don't get me wrong, I just don't want to be anyone's hero because I don't want to run the risk of letting them down. I'll give you an example. My biggest hero growing up, my biggest idol was Robin Williams. One of the greatest comedians of all time. I loved his stand-up. I loved his movies. I just loved everything he did. I just wish he hadn't gone out the way he did. I wish I hadn't found him like that. I wish they had just found like an open Jumanji board with the dice on clinical depression. We could have put the pieces together ourselves. But I find it funny because people oftentimes, when they know my parents, as you folks do, they often say, how did you get into comedy? It was something your parents supported? And in reality, I think I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my parents. My dad likes to say he's the funniest Pete Buchbauer. The fact that I get paid for this tells me otherwise. But I actually think it might have been more my mom. I don't know. I think it's because I was raised really conservative. And so I have a lot of stories to tell. I was raised so conservative. I actually had a Sports Illustrated subscription growing up. And when the swimsuit issue came out, my mom tore it up and threw it away. And that's how I learned I was good at puzzles. So a few years later, we got the internet because that became a thing. You guys remember that. And I would print off pictures of naked women in black and white because I'm classy. And we didn't have a color printer. And I would take those pictures and I'd put those pictures in a book and I'd hide it under my mattress because I saw it on TV and I thought it was a good place to hide things. The problem was I had a stay-at-home mom and I was bad at making my bed, so she found them. And she replaced all those pictures of naked women with Bible verses. And it is a lot harder for a pubescent boy to discover himself to Bible verses. I mean, not impossible. Not impossible. There's still some good stuff in there, but it's just a lot more difficult. I don't know. I think it also might be that I am mixed race. A lot of people don't even realize that. Even when they know my parents, they don't realize that I'm half German and half Puerto Rican. People look at me all the time like, man, Pete, you don't look Mexican at all. I'm like, that's not what I said, white friends. It's Puerto Rico. It's an island. Trump tried to clean it with paper towels. You guys remember that. But I do think it was a lot of that because I had two very different sets of grandparents growing up. I had one that was very optimistic and loving and comforting and beautiful and wonderful, and one that was German, and they don't play that game. My German grandmother. My German grandmother is she is a stone cold bitch. I love her, but she's a tough, tough woman. I'll give you an example. When I was 4 years old, my grandmother came to visit my family in Virginia. And she's like, Pete, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, Grandma, I want to be an actor. And she goes, no, you don't. Those people are attractive. 4 years old, my grandmother told me I was too ugly to act. So I had to prove her otherwise, and I moved to Los Angeles. Actually, just a couple of weeks after I got to Los Angeles, I got my first audition for a major broadcast television show. Now, I can't really talk about what it was because I didn't get the part, but it was about two impoverished women. So I went to this audition that was at a major broadcast network that was neither ABC, NBC, or Fox, and it went well. I might have just made it. I thought I might have just gotten the part. So I was excited. They were like, Mr. Buchbauer, we'll let you know in a couple of days. And I left, and I was in a good mood. I was sky high. I was excited. A few days later, I get a phone call. And they're like, so Mr. Buchbauer, I'm sorry. I'm afraid we're going for a different visual aesthetic, which is at least nicer than the way Grandma put it, you know? So not attractive enough for television, so I do voiceover. But a few days later, I actually found out in the magazine Variety who had got the part. And guys, I lost out to the rapper 2 Chainz. And if you're not familiar, let's just put it that that's more than a different visual aesthetic. That's a different role altogether. Why the hell are he and I auditioning for the same parts? That doesn't make sense. But it was nice when I first moved out here. I was really excited because I originally moved in with my younger brother and my nephew and his wife. My brother's wife, not my nephew's. That would have been weird. He was 3. Well, one day right before I had a show, my brother was like, hey, do you want to hang out with your nephew before your show? And I was like, oh my God, I would love to. I love this kid. I want to spend some time with him. He's like, great, potty training's going well. It's like, what does that mean? He goes, it's simple. He needs to go to the bathroom. He's going to tell you. You put down his step stool, you put down his booster seat, he'll take care of the rest. It's like, I went to college, I can handle this, let's do it. So we're hanging out that day, we're watching Handy Manny. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Handy Manny. It's a fantastic children's program about teamwork. And my nephew decided he wanted to practice his teamwork, said, Uncle Pete, I gotta go potty. It's like, all right, buddy, let's do this. I've been trained. Step stool, booster seat, you all set? He gave me a Top Gun thumbs up. He's like, yeah, Maverick, I got this. I was like, cool, Goose, I'm going back to Handy Manny because I was invested. So about 2 minutes go by, and I hear, Uncle Pete, I done. I was like, I guess I got to go move his step stool. Because what I found when I returned to the restroom can only be described as a pantsless 3-year-old, perfectly executing downward-facing dog, presenting himself for the wiping. See, here's the thing. When someone tells you he takes care of the rest, that's the rest. I don't have kids. I don't know proper protocol. I don't know when I go from being Uncle Pete to creepy Uncle Pete. It's a thin line I'm not willing to cross. Just took a little toilet paper. It was like, whoop, I don't do your laundry. Let's go. And that's when my adorable 3-year-old nephew became Linda Blair in The Exorcist as he turned around and went, wipe harder. And that's how I knew I was never going to have kids. A few years later, he actually got his first cavity, and it was partially my fault. And his mom said no more sugar, and I was still kind of sneaking candy. One day he came to me and said, Uncle Pete, can I get some of our secret candy? And I was like, yes, but can we not call that secret candy? Once again, not trying to cross a line here. I'm not ready to be on a Dateline special. Guys, this has been so amazing. The AAML does so many wonderful things. Please be generous with your donations. I want to thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you to Larry Moskowitz for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to my parents for bringing me to this world and bringing me to you guys. I've been Pete Buchbauer, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.